All right, everybody, welcome back to the bench. This week we're going to go over our affordable rifle build. Not cheap. That's the one thing I think people are probably going to mistake for this. This isn't a cheap rifle build. This is an affordable rifle build. The affordability part meaning that we're not using so inexpensive parts that we're going to cause failures or premature wear or anything like that. But we're also not using super expensive parts to where the gun's going to be unobtainable for a lot of people. So we're going to delve a little bit deeper into why I chose the barrel, why I chose gas block. You don't have to use the same upper receiver that I'm using because that is an expensive upper receiver. What you can use is a cheaper one, totally understandable. And we're going to go from there. First of all, huge thank you to Brownells. They're an awesome sponsor. If I have this video out today, you should still be able to use code July15. This Sunday, July 7th. If you guys want to be able to use that code, I think you have until the end of the day today. In fact, I think Brownells might do an extended sale, but I'm not 100% sure. So please head on over there, use code July15 on anything 150 or more. And then after that, if you can't use that code anymore after it expires, use code BOP10. That'll save yourself 10% off. All right, affordable rifle series. Yes, I'm running a rear end mount on the front. That was just to test it with a very high back pressure can, a very inexpensive can. I'm not going to be using the rear end mount in the future. In fact, I'm going to go to the A2. You guys are going to see why. I'm going to go with that route here. Just continue watching. You'll see the video here in a minute. There is a lot of people who are stating, hey man, a 1 in 9 twist carbine length barrel, like, is this 2008 again? No, but these are contract overrun barrels that Roscoe Manufacturing made for another company. They're pretty decent barrels from everything I've seen so far. The gas port size isn't incredibly huge, but as we can see, we're still getting a ton of gas through here. That is because we have a highly gas efficient gas block and a highly gas efficient gas tube mixed with a relatively good bolt carrier group that is very gas efficient also. So when it comes to that, you have a very sealed efficient system. Now that means we're driving up pressures for reliability, correct? So when we want to do that, the reason why we're going to use a good quality gas block. Now again, you don't have to go with Forward Control Designs or Geissele. There are many of them out there. Roscoe makes one that's pretty decent. Most of the time they pass QC. I've seen some of them where they just look like those little ring toss games where you just throw the ring on there and it just spins around. I've seen some of them that look like that, along with some Aero Precision ones that I've got. That it is just what it is. That's how a lot of gas blocks are sometimes when you get them, especially with the cheaper ones. With Forward Control Designs, I have yet to get one. I've got, I think, 3 now. I've yet to get one that has not just really fitted to the barrel. There was somebody who commented on one of my shorts stating that he had one that didn't fit right. I'm like, hey man, I totally get it. You know, he's like, well, if I got an Aero Precision one that I've got to beat on with a mallet, or I have this one where it's just really loose, I completely get that. Really, the standard is the same. Can you hold up your barrel / upper receiver and do that without it being screwed in? If you can do that, then you have a really good gas seal, especially if it's making contact on all sides. You'll see in some of the B-roll footage after shooting this, when I've taken everything apart again to show you guys right now, there's really no carbon leaking. There was a lot of people who were stating in there that you have, like, the carbon will seal it up. Yeah, there has to be a lot of buildup there. It will eventually get to that point. A lot of people, I don't say shoot enough in order to get it to that point. After a magazine, this still looks relatively clean on the outside. We're not getting any sort of gas jetting out or doing anything like that. It's just working the way that it's supposed to. You don't want your gas block to lose seal. Again, I'm not going to go on a rant about this. If you need to know any more, I will post a link down below to a video that Trajectory Arms made a while ago about gas blocks. You can nerd out about that and have fun. I went with a Geissele upper receiver. Now, again, this came off a receiver set that I bought a long time ago from Brownells. I don't necessarily love the receiver. I have no OD Green builds that I'm currently building with it. And apparently Geissele is getting rid of their OD Green stuff. So, I don't know, maybe I have a gem on my hands here. You can totally say that you can go ahead and use an Aero Precision or an Anderson or a Ballistic Advantage or one of the KE Arms, one of the cheaper upper receivers. You're more than welcome to run one of those. They have no issue. Really, what I want to do with this whole thing is just build an affordable rifle. I'm going to tell you guys where you can skip some of the parts that I used and just kind of go with something a little bit cheaper. That's one of them. You're more than welcome to do that. The one thing I'll tell you is don't skip out on the barrel. Don't even though I did. Buy a quality barrel. They don't have to cost a fortune. If you really want a cold hammer forge one, Ballistic Advantage makes some really inexpensive cold hammer forge chrome line barrels. They run mid length, they run rifle length, they run carbine length, whatever really you want. I will say with the carbine length system, you're getting more brutality throughout of it, especially when we watch this video here in just a minute. It's brutal. It's very, very gas efficient, so it's definitely pushing all that gas to me as a left-handed shooter. I actually might experiment with my first left-handed upper receiver when I do this here pretty soon. It's going to be different. I've never done one of those. Maybe even getting a left-handed bolt carrier group is going to be quite annoying and having to figure all that out. But I might experiment with one here soon. So we'll see what happens. I definitely want to see how that's going to work. The barrel, as we've talked about, 1 in 9 twist, chrome lined, carbine length barrel. It's just a phosphated barrel. It came with a cut front sight base. I took that off because it's fine, but I don't want to have to completely change the handguard, which the handguard we are going with a 15-inch Midwest Industries combat rail. CMR? Combat Modular Rail? No, I think that's a different company. Combat Rail. I think that's what it's called. It's a 15-inch Midwest Industries combat rail. I like these rails. They're not slathered with a bunch of QD like a lot of other Midwest Industries rails. They're very good. They're slimline. They're ultra lightweight. I mean, they weigh nothing. I should have a photo of how much this upper receiver weighs. It's really nice. So I wanted to go with that. I might be running hand stops and other hand stopping things, vertical grips, such the like. Might be running those, and I think I can have some fun with just kind of testing out some new stuff. I did put this into an initial configuration with a red dot, and I ran a Roscoe bolt carrier group that I had. That's pretty good. It's a phosphate bolt carrier group. I did buy that one from Roscoe, although they did give me a discount, so there we go. But that's a pretty decent bolt carrier group. I like that one. I've been running it a lot, and in fact, I think I changed the bolt out from the Roscoe bolt, and I put in the JP Enterprises Enhanced 223 bolt, just because it's a very, very good bolt. It takes a lot of pressure. That's very expensive. Really, what I'll tell you is Roscoe makes really good phosphate bolt carrier groups. If you're going to build an inexpensive one, you can go that route. A lot of people have told me that they really want me to go with this really inexpensive bolt carrier group made by Microbest. A lot of places sell them, Primary Arms, Palmetto State Armory, whatever. I like cheaper bolt carrier groups. I think they're really good. The only thing is I don't necessarily want to go ultra cheap, but I don't want to go like so cheap where I'm like buying a $49 Bear Creek Arsenal one. So ARFTAC has one. It's got all the upgraded parts to it. We'll walk through that when I get there, and we'll do all that fun stuff. But I think building an affordable / inexpensive but not cheap rifle, you will have to, maybe save up for a more expensive bolt carrier group. Again, that one's around $130 to $140. They have Blemmed ones that are like 109 and they're chrome lined. I might pick up one of those pretty soon. I think that would be a pretty decent bolt carrier group, especially to put in here. And we can also go through some of the Brownells offerings. They have some phosphate ones that are relatively inexpensive. I think around $110 or $115 that are possibly just made by Microbest and not branded for Brownells. We could go that route. We have no idea the amount of things that we can do. Now, I will say, there are a lot of people who are saying, hey man, go get this PLX, Nova, whatever, or the SLX, or GL. I don't know anything about Primary Arms. In fact, I think I might send an email to one of them next week just asking a ton of questions about some of their scopes and doing, let them know that I might be interested in picking one up. I have no idea. I'm really going to go talk to them, just send them an email and kind of figure out what I can do from there. Not get one for free. I might pay for that one. Who knows? Maybe they'll offer. I have no idea. But I really do want to see about maybe getting a Primary Arms scope on one of these. A lot of people seem to think that they're really, really good. They're like, hey, if you want to go down the affordability option, like $259 for a scope isn't bad. Yeah, we could definitely do an LPVO for around that price. I will say my buddy Mike, who let me use his can for this thing that we're going to talk about here in a second, when it comes to it, he runs a lot of those Primary Arms scopes. They're, in my opinion, every time I've looked through one, they're not that incredible. yeah, we'll finish talking about this, and we're going to go over the low receiver and how I'm going to do that. Again, there will be some parts on there that you don't have to do, but me as a left-handed person, I am doing, along with the trigger and all that. Watch this video. This is the first 30 rounds through this upper receiver. I wanted to check functionality, see how everything was working, and we're going to go from there. So please stay tuned. We'll be right back.
All right, so this is the ultra cheap upper. I have a reared in mount on the front because I'm going to be running a turbo T2 when I run it unsuppressed. This is just that 1 in 9 twist barrel here. I'm going to make sure that it's concentric when I go to test the suppressor, and then yeah, this should be pretty relatively interesting. M81 woodland stock, but I put this on my other lower, and then that Difrico grip because I've been wanting to try this out, and today in our range day I think we're going to have some fun with it. So let's run some testing here real quick. This will be the first shots. I already have a couple rounds loaded up. I have not zeroed this optic whatsoever. All right, there's a lot of heat coming out of here, but it's not so bad so far. It's actually looks really nice. It runs pretty good. It's a little bit gassy, especially because it's that carbine length gas system. So, I mean, these are the first shots. I don't know. I'm gonna go through, check the concentricity with suppressor, and we're gonna see how gassy it is with a turbo T2. I have a turbo T2 with a reared end mount. Thank you to my buddy Heat Holders Houston who let me borrow this. All right, so we have the YHM Turbo K. We have just some standard 55 grain stuff in here. I mean, it's nothing special. I will say fuck running this thing suppressed, especially with that turbo K. That is brutal. That is a brutal back pressure beast, and the gas port size on this is not very big. Like, the gas port size on this upper is not big whatsoever. So I'll show you guys. You guys can see this from here. It's gnarly. That's a beast to shoot suppressed. I think I'm gonna take it to the A2 for a while, and I'm just gonna run it unsuppressed. This will be like my unsuppressed gun, like permanently probably, until I can get a flow through can, because it is so annoying to shoot suppressed. At least the lock's open on that last round, but you should know that because it's overpressured.
All right, so as you guys can see, the upper receiver performed really well. Very, very gassy. As we saw, it is extremely gassy. It hit me just right in the face with a ton of gas, right in my eyeballs, right in my mouth, doing all that other fun stuff. With the charging handle that I was using, it is a good one. It is not necessarily my absolute favorite. In fact, I think my best performing charging handle is my BCM one. It's the Mark II. I have a video about it. I will also link that somewhere in here. The BCM Mark II definitely outperforms this charging handle when it comes to being a left-handed shooter. When it comes to being a right-handed shooter, I've never seen anybody complain about one of these. They're just really big on the back end. So you could totally use one of these, or you can buy BCM. They're about the same price, and they're not insanely expensive. When it comes to charging handles, though, if you really just wanted to go ultra cheap, nothing wrong with just that standard charging handle for $12. No one's going to care about that. In fact, I won't even complain. If that's the route you want to go, you can save yourself some money. Being a left-handed person, though, I do recommend a gas-busting charging handle, especially if you're going to run suppressed. So as we saw, very, very gassy, but it worked really well. The gun is gas efficient, like nobody's business. As I said, there's a difference between building a cheap rifle and an affordable rifle that's actually good. This is where it's kind of shining. We're seeing that gas efficiency working to our advantage. The dirtier this gun gets, the harder it's going to need to work. And when it has to work super hard, that's when this gun will probably perform really well. Once this is all said and done, and I have all the parts in here, I am not going to clean it. I'm probably going to throw some lube in it every now and then, but I'm just not going to clean it. I'm going to run it the way that I want to. Now I'm going to bust out the lower receiver. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about some of the parts we're going to use on it, and we're going to go from there. All right, so with these Geissele Blem lower receivers, now this is a Count Blemula right here. There should be a Blem on here. Yeah, right there. The little Count Blem guy right there. These Geissele lower receivers are some of the best low receivers. They're Blemed. They're about 75 bucks. As you guys can tell, I have beat the ever-living junk out of this thing. It did come with some pretty gnarly Blems on this one, but for $75 for a lower receiver that is 40 millimeter green, I have no problem with that. I like the low receiver. I think it does really well. It's doing what it's supposed to. Now, here's where it's going to get a little controversial, but these are my picks. You can run whatever you want for your lower parts kits and things like that. I will say just kind of make sure that your lower is in spec, that it fits kind of how you want it to and all that other fun stuff. It's just one of those things. I personally would run Forward Control Designs parts, and that's exactly what I'm going to run. I have a magazine release here. I have a rearward bias Forward Control Designs bolt catch bolt release. I really like those ones. I wanted to run one. I got one dimpled. I am running a Geissele SSAE trigger in here. I was able to pick this up from a buddy of mine. I traded him a Glock for this trigger. It was a clone Glock, but I traded it for this trigger. So thank you to my buddy Chris, also my cameraman. He's an awesome dude. But I traded for this trigger. I want to run this trigger in here. Again, you guys can run a mil-spec trigger. That's not a problem. The trigger and the guts of this aren't the issue. It's just the actual serial number piece itself. When it comes to this, though, the rest of it's going to be a CMMG lower parts kit. The CMMG lower parts kits are probably some of my favorite. They always have a tendency to work well. I don't necessarily love the Forward Control Designs pivot and takedown pins. Those are kind of like my annoyance. They're ultra, 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 ultra stiff, and I don't think people take their guns apart enough for them to really wear in. So I just have a tendency to run the CMMG ones. They work really well, and they have a tendency to just, be a little bit smoother, especially during the wear-in process, whereas the Forward Control Designs ones, you really got to hammer those things out sometimes, and I just don't love that. And they're not the oversized pins. They are the normal-sized pins, because you can buy the oversized pins or you can buy the normal ones. Either way, I highly recommend the CMMG pivot pin and takedown pins. They really work. Geissele makes a pretty good set too. Some of them can be very, very tight. Some of them cannot be. It all depends on how they fit with your lower receiver. Again, one of the things I will tell you is just when you're putting these together, you can use affordable parts. You can even get away with using cheap parts in some areas, but it does not always work the way that you want it to. So I would definitely recommend picking up a decent lower parts kit if you want to finish this off. The CMMG one works really, really well, and if that's how you want to run it, I can't say anything negative about that. So you may be like, hey man, I'm going to run an Anderson or something like that. I got one really good on a steal of a deal over there at Primary Arms for the 4th of July sale. By all means, run an Anderson. I like Anderson lower receivers. They are not my favorite, but I like them. They perform really well, especially at that price point. Sorry, somebody had called me in the middle of this. I really like them. They're good, but I prefer the Geissele Blems just because I feel like you get a more QC'd lower receiver. Yeah, you'll get some cosmetic Blems, but I mean, you really can't beat a $75 lower. The only problem is they're not always in stock. It's like Geissele saves them up for like a couple times a year, and that's the issue. So if you weren't lucky enough to get a Blem, by all means, go pick up an Anderson, or if you really want, go pick up a Colt or something. It's up to you. They're really good. I like these lowers, but a lot of people will tell you lowers, lower, lower. That's not always true. There are some facts when it comes to that. Other than that, pretty decent. That's pretty much the lower receiver right now. I have a 40 millimeter green Blem tube here. As you guys can see, a little Count Blem right there. I have that. I do have a Forward Control Designs castle nut. That is not something you're going to need to use. What I will say is if you're like me and you like running a QD end plate, I love running QD end plates. In fact, BCM makes some of the cheapest ones out there that are really, really good, and they're all steel. I highly recommend running that one. Those you can pick up relatively inexpensive. So that's pretty much what I'm going to be running for this. The lower parts kit and everything is going to be extremely inexpensive. Now, I wanted to give you guys some options for springs. I I prefer running the Geissele Super 42 springs. I really like these. They work really well. They have a tendency to just give like really good ejection patterns. I think with this, I might have to run an H3, even though I do need to take one of these apart, take out the tungsten weight, put in the stainless steel weight, and then add an H3 to another one of these that I have. I don't necessarily see a problem with running these. They're really good. They can be expensive, especially when you're going into running the H3 or the H2. They can be upwards of $90 to $100. I completely understand that. If you really want, what I would recommend is PWS. It makes a very, very solid H2, H3, H4. These can be had anywhere from $30 to $60, depending on exactly what they are, whichever one you buy. I highly recommend that. If you really want, especially when you're going to run a gun dirty and it is overgassed, you can run these extra power. This is the 308 carbine. This is the extra power. So this is the orange one. I have a red one on the way. That's for the M4. The 308 I've actually never had an issue with, but I will say that run the M4 one. The M4 red is a very good one, or the Sprinco blue. I highly recommend Sprinco springs. They work really well. Yes, they're a little twangy, but they are some of the best springs on the market. There's a guy, Chaotic K9, he posts down in the comments down below all the time on all my videos, which I can't shout him out enough. He's a great guy. If you have any dog questions, go talk to him. But he has some experience with the Tubbs flat wire spring. Maybe he can put his testimonial down below for that. I've never run one, never wanted to run one. I guess it takes the twang out, but you can buy them in like extra power or maybe just enhanced power or something like that. The Sprinco springs work really well for me. I've never really seen a need to change other than running the Super 42 to kind of take out that twang. But other than that, I think that's pretty much the conclusion of the build so far. We still have to get our bolt cure group and our optic, but we went out and we did our range testing. I think it's going to be just a little bit longer before we kind of completely finish the build, and we'll go from there. So, as always, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I absolutely love what you guys are doing. Can't thank you guys enough for commenting, watching, subscribing, doing everything. Again, huge shout out to the channel sponsor, Brownells. They're an amazing company. Go give them a shout. Go give them some love. Let them know that I sent you. All right. As always, I hope you guys have a good one. Be a hoodlum.